on October 8th at 9:04 p.m. Eastern Time, Mars will perfectly square Pluto. Now, these are the two co-rulers of Scorpio in modern astrology. Scorpio is the sign that rules pain, death, loss, grief, payment of debt. And so there's a lot of Scorpio or scorpionic implications for October 8th. Mars is the planet of conflict, aggression, war, fighting, and Pluto is the one who ends that fight. Pluto is the planet that rules destruction, desolation, intense experiences that shatter you to your core so you're never the same again. Even though the square goes exact on October 8th, it will be approaching that square or applying to the square for days before that. It enters the 1 degree orb when Mars and Pluto are only 1 degree off from each other on October 7th, and then it leaves that 1 degree orb on October 10th and will continue separating from that square for a few days after that. So I'm not trying to fearmonger, but I do want everyone to be cautious of this aspect for days leading up to it and days after. I'd say like October 5th to October 12th or 13th, you should just take extra precaution in every area of life. Cautious about the confrontations you choose to engage in. Are you willing to fight it out to the death? Are you willing to die on this hill? Because you might have to if you choose to confront somebody while Mars is square Pluto. Caution with whatever activities you're participating in, especially if they're dangerous. This is not the time to be scheduling like bungee jumps or jumping off cliffs or skydiving or anything that could possibly cause very serious physical traumatic injury. Mars is the planet that rules action, taking action, any activities that require energy output. Mars rules things like sports, athletics. So if you're an athlete, this might be a good time period to maybe not push yourself to the limit. Or if you do, to make sure that you are taking extra care with the aftercare, icing your muscles and, getting the lactic acid massages, whatever you need to do to make sure that you're avoiding physical injury. Pluto and Mars, as the rulers of Scorpio, also rule payment of debts. So this might be a period where we see some unexpected side swipes in terms of debt collection. You may receive a call from a collections agency that you haven't heard from in a while. Or if you owe somebody money who doesn't abide by the law, this might be the time they're looking to break some kneecaps in. So just be very careful with the debts that you owe around this period too. There might also be some themes of like overcoming or trying to penetrate through something that's inaccessible. Scorpio is the feminine expression of Mars, and it talks about instead of attacking or going after something with violence, it talks about defending yourself and protecting yourself against violent attack. So Pluto can be seen as somebody kind of retreating into their shell in order to avoid violence, in order to protect their vulnerabilities. And that's why Scorpios are known to withdraw into their own little world to protect themselves against the fucking dangers of the world. So Mars square Pluto can talk about somebody penetrating your emotional or even your physical boundaries, emphasized when you think about the fact that Mars is in Libra and its detriment. It's in its opposite sign from its home sign Aries. So it's doing the exact opposite of what it's supposed to be doing. If Mars in Aries is fighting for survival and fighting to have your basic needs met, then Mars in Libra rules peace and harmony and balance. So it's like causing conflict and fighting in the name of peace and harmony. It is not conducive. That's not to say that there's nothing positive that can come from this, because there's a positive and a negative to everything. So Pluto doesn't just rule payment of debt, it rules debt in general, and that includes acquiring new debt. So think about Taurus as the sign that rules money and finances and the resources that you are in possession of. Scorpio, the opposite sign, talks about the resources that you don't have, that you're trying to get. It talks about other people's money, and Pluto can be a signifier of things like getting loans, grants, finally applying for that mortgage. And Mars talks about movement and action. So Mars square Pluto can bring some movement to obtaining external resources and finances. When I think of Mars square Pluto, I think of somebody who is digging and penetrating and finally accesses or uncovers some sort of buried treasure or hidden wealth. So this can be literal, like literally uncovering resources that you didn't know were there, or it can be more metaphorical, like finally finding the diamond in the rough that you've been looking for, whatever that might be. Remember, Scorpio rules both death and other people's money. So Scorpio is associated with the concept of inheritance. Mars square Pluto might be the time to go after an inheritance that's rightfully yours. And this can be one of the positive examples of Mars in Libra, even though it's in its detriment. You know, Mars wants to be swinging his sword on the battlefield, but you put him in Libra and he has to go through the court system, which in this case worked. It's definitely the energy of somebody trying to get their money back, whether it's somebody else trying to collect their debt on you or you trying to collect the debt that you are rightfully owed. So again, be safe, be cautious, don't worry about it too much. I'm not trying to fearmonger, and the more anxious you are about something bad happen, the more likely it is to happen. So that's not what I want you to do. I just want you to keep in mind and be smart from this October 5th to October 12th. Just make sure you're thinking before you're acting. Mars rules impulse and not thinking before you act. So we don't want to do that. We want to make sure our head is clear and that we're thinking about what we're doing before we're actually taking action. October has so many intense transits, so like this video, follow me for more updates on October transits, including eclipse season, which happens at the end of October. It's going to be crazy.